You cheated on me. Now you'll pay the price.
The champagne flute shattered against marble, crystal shards catching hotel lights like fallen stars. Nathan Drake stood frozen in the ballroom doorway, watching his wife Isabella laugh with another man's arm around her waist. "Oh, look, it's Mr. Always late," someone called out, triggering a wave of snickers from departing guests. Isabella turned, her smile faltering when she saw him. Damian Cole, Nathan's VP of marketing, kept his arm possessively around her shoulders. "Nathan," Isabella said, her voice carrying that tone he'd grown to hate, the one she used when explaining obvious things to stupid people. "Didn't you get my text?" He pulled out his phone. "No messages." "You weren't invited," she continued, her red lips curving into something that wasn't quite a smile. Camera flashes popped as someone's phone captured the moment. The party was clearly over. Servers collected empty glasses while the last guests filtered toward the exits, whispering and glancing back at the tableau. Nathan recognized most faces, people from their social circle, colleagues from his company, Isabella's influencer friends. All of them had known. All of them had watched this unfold. Damian stepped forward, straightening his tie. "Look, Nathan, this is awkward for everyone. Maybe we should talk tomorrow when—" "No need." Nathan's voice came out perfectly calm, which surprised even him. "Enjoy your evening." He turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing in the marble foyer. Behind him, he heard Isabella's nervous laugh and someone's hushed comment about drama. In the parking garage, Nathan sat in his Tesla for exactly 3 minutes, staring at the concrete wall. Then he called Lena. "Nathan? Isn't tonight Isabella's party? Cancel everything with her name on it. Every card, every booking, every authorization." Silence stretched across the line. Lena had been his assistant for 6 years. She never asked stupid questions. "How far back?" she asked. "Everything. The Bali trip next month, 48,000, the Mercedes lease, personal cards, all of it. I'll need about 2 hours to execute everything properly. Do it right. I want clean documentation for every action." Nathan drove home through empty midnight streets. Their penthouse sat dark on the 32nd floor, Isabella's absence marked by the lack of lights and music she usually left running. He poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat on the leather couch they'd picked out together 3 years ago. His phone buzzed with a text from Lena. "Bali trip canceled. Full refund processed. Mercedes lease terminated. Vehicle pickup scheduled tomorrow. Personal cards frozen. She'll find out when she tries to use them." He finished his drink and went to bed in the guest room. The next morning, Nathan arrived at his office before sunrise. Drake Luxury Travel occupied 4 floors of a downtown high-rise, employing 230 people across 12 countries. He owned 90% of it. Lena was already at her desk with coffee and a thick folder. Status report? Isabella tried to use her Amex at midnight for an Uber. Declined. She called the card company. They referred her to you. Damian's corporate card was declined at a hotel bar around 1 a.m. He's been calling your cell every 15 minutes since... Nathan's phone sat face down on his desk, silent. "What's in the folder?" "Corporate documents, your equity stake, partnership agreements, compensation structures." "I called Marcus from accounting. He's waiting in conference room A." Marcus Trent had served as CFO for 8 years, a practical man who understood numbers better than emotions. He looked tired when Nathan entered the conference room, manila folders spread across the mahogany table. "Lena briefed me," Marcus said without preamble. "You want to pull your equity? All of it?" "Nathan, that's $157 million. The company can't survive. The company survives. I'm selling my 90% to Meridian Holdings. They've been courting us for 2 years." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "What about employee contracts? Damian's VP position?" "Damian Cole will be terminated for cause effective immediately. His personal expenses charged to corporate accounts over the past 18 months constitute theft. I have the documentation." "And Isabella's consulting contract?" Nathan smiled for the first time since the party. "What consulting contract?" "She never did any actual work." They spent 4 hours reviewing paperwork. By noon, Nathan had signed documents transferring his equity to Meridian Holdings for $157 million. The acquiring company would keep most employees but had already agreed to terminate Damian Cole immediately upon takeover. Lena knocked and entered with lunch and an update. "Local media is calling. Someone leaked photos from last night. You walking out while Isabella and Damian posed together. They're asking for comment about corporate drama and marital discord. No comment. What else? Isabella's assistant called begging to reinstate her cards. I explained that all financial authorizations were revoked permanently. She started crying. Nathan's phone had accumulated 43 missed calls. He powered it off. Schedule the equity transfer announcement for tomorrow morning. Make sure all department heads attend, including Damien, especially Damien. The next morning's staff meeting filled the main conference room. Nathan stood at the head of the table, Lena beside him with folders for each department head. Damien sat near the back, looking haggard in yesterday's shirt. Effective immediately, I'm transferring my equity stake in Drake Luxury Travel to Meridian Holdings, Nathan began. The transition will be seamless for most employees. However, certain positions are being eliminated. Damien shifted in his chair. Nathan, about last night. Mr. Cole, you're terminated for misuse of corporate funds. Security will escort you out after this meeting. Your final paycheck reflects deductions for personal expenses incorrectly charged to company accounts, $18,400 over the past year. The room went silent. Department heads exchanged glances while Damien's face flushed red. You can't do this because of some personal bullcrap. Personal expenses at Hotel Meridian with Isabella Drake on March 15th. Dinner at Le Bernardin charged as a client meeting. No client present. Jewelry purchased at Tiffany's coded as employee appreciation gifts, but delivered to your apartment. Should I continue? Damien stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. This is because you can't satisfy your own wife. Nathan nodded to Lena, who gestured to the security guards waiting outside. They entered and flanked Damien's chair. Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Cole to his office to collect personal items only. All corporate materials remain company property. As Damien was let out, he turned back. This isn't over, Nathan. Yes, it is. The staff meeting continued with transition details. Nathan fielded questions about job security and operational changes, maintaining his professional demeanor while privately enjoying the whispered conversations about Damien's dramatic exit. After the meeting, Lena lingered behind. The Meridian executives want to schedule a handoff meeting. When are you available? Tomorrow afternoon. What's the media situation? TMZ picked up the story. Tech CEO humiliated at wife's birthday party is trending on social media. Isabella posted on Instagram calling it fake news and personal attacks. Nathan almost smiled. Isabella's Instagram account, with its 200,000 followers, had been a major part of her identity. She'd built a lifestyle brand around being married to a successful entrepreneur. Any other updates? Your lawyer called. Divorce papers are ready for review. And there's something else. Isabella's been calling hotels trying to book the Maldives trip with different cards. All declined. That afternoon, Nathan met with his divorce attorney in a glass-walled office overlooking the city. Patricia Kim specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for thoroughness. Prenuptial agreement is solid, she said, sliding documents across her desk. Separate property remains separate, marital assets split 50-50. But most of your wealth is separate property from before the marriage. What about the penthouse? Your name only on the deed. She has 30 days to vacate after papers are served. And Isabella's potential claims on the business? She never held equity or formal employment. Her consulting payments were gifts, legally speaking. She has no claim. Nathan signed the papers while Patricia explained the timeline. Isabella would be served tomorrow morning at the penthouse. One more thing, Patricia added. I recommend changing all passwords and security codes immediately. Angry spouses sometimes attempt to access accounts out of spite. That evening, Nathan sat in his home office updating passwords and security protocols. The penthouse felt different, cleaner somehow, without Isabella's constant background noise of music, phone calls, and reality TV. His landline rang around 11 p.m. He almost ignored it, then recognized Marcus's number. Nathan, you need to see the news. Channel 7 is running a story about corporate fraud at luxury travel companies. Someone leaked Damien's expense reports. Nathan turned on his television. A business reporter stood outside Drake Luxury Travel's building discussing alleged misuse of corporate funds by high-level executives. The story included specific details about expensive dinners and suspicious purchases. I didn't leak anything, Nathan told Marcus. Someone did. Damien's name is all over social media. #corporate thief is trending. After hanging up, Nathan made himself a drink and watched coverage expand across multiple news outlets. Someone had provided reporters with detailed documentation about Damien's expense fraud. The coverage was thorough and damaging. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You destroyed my career and my life. This isn't over." Nathan deleted it and went to bed. The next morning brought chaos. Nathan arrived at the office to find news vans in the parking garage and reporters camped outside the building. Lena met him at the private entrance with coffee and updates. Damien was arrested an hour ago. Fraud charges based on the leaked documents. His bail hearing is this afternoon. Who leaked the information? Unknown. Someone with access to detailed financial records sent everything to Channel 7, the Business Journal, and 3 online publications simultaneously. They took the executive elevator to Nathan's office, avoiding the lobby where reporters waited. Through his window, Nathan could see more news vans arriving. "Isabella's been served," Lena continued. "Process server found her at the gym. She threw the papers at him and screamed that he was violating her privacy." "Any other developments?" "Your ex-business partner Jake Steele called. He saw the news and wanted to discuss investment opportunities. Also, Meridian Holdings wants to accelerate the transition timeline given the media attention." Nathan spent the morning in conference calls with lawyers and executives. The Meridian deal would close within 2 weeks instead of the planned month, insulating him from ongoing corporate drama. Around noon, his personal phone, a number known only to family and close friends, started ringing. Isabella. "Nathan, we need to talk. Schedule an appointment with my attorney." "Don't you dare hang up on me. You're humiliating me in front of everyone." "I didn't humiliate you. You did that yourself. This is about one mistake." "One night when you weren't even there for me." Nathan looked out his office window at the news vans below. "One night? Lena, how long has Isabella been charging personal expenses as business costs?" Lena consulted her tablet. 18 months of documented inappropriate charges." "Did you hear that, Isabella? 18 months. Silence on the line, then. "You're destroying everything we built together." "We didn't build anything together. I built a company. You spent the profits." The line went dead. That afternoon, Nathan met with Meridian Holdings executives in a private dining room downtown, away from media attention. The acquisition paperwork was finalized over lunch, with Nathan walking away with $157 million and no ongoing obligations. "What's your next move?" asked Sarah Chen, Meridian's CEO. "Undecided. Travel, maybe?" "I've been working for 15 years straight. If you ever want to consult or start something new, call us." This transition has been remarkably clean despite the circumstances. Nathan returned to his office to find Lena organizing his personal belongings. His tenure at Drake Luxury Travel would end officially tomorrow. "Final updates," she said, reading from her tablet. "Isabella's Instagram account is hemorrhaging followers. Several brand partnerships have been canceled after companies researched her connection to the corporate fraud story." "And Damien?" "Bail denied. His lawyer says he's looking at 18 months minimum if convicted." "What about you?" "Meridian offered you a position, right?" Lena nodded. "Senior executive assistant to their operations director. 20% pay increase." "Good. You earned it." That evening, Nathan drove to his rarely used lake house 2 hours outside the city. The property sat on 40 acres of private land, a place he'd bought for solitude and never shared with Isabella, who found it boring and isolated. He opened windows throughout the house, letting in fresh air and evening sounds. For the first time in weeks, he felt something approaching peace. His phone buzzed with a text from his brother David in Seattle. Saw the news. "You okay?" Nathan typed back. "Better than okay." Around 10 p.m., headlights appeared in his long driveway. Nathan watched from the deck as a black Mercedes approached the house. Isabella emerged from the passenger side, makeup streaked and hair disheveled. Damien's cousin Tony got out from the driver's seat. Nathan met them at the front door but didn't open it. "We need to talk," Isabella said through the glass, her voice muffled. "Make an appointment with my lawyer." "Nathan, please. I'm sorry, it was a mistake." Tony stepped forward. "Come on, man, she's your wife. You can't just destroy her life over some bullcrap." Nathan opened the door just wide enough to be heard clearly. "Tony, you're trespassing on private property. Isabella, you're in violation of the restraining order filed this afternoon. You both need to leave immediately." What restraining order? Isabella's voice pitched higher. The one preventing you from contacting me directly or coming within 500 feet of my properties. My lawyer filed it after your threatening phone calls today. Tony's face flushed red. You can't hide behind lawyers forever, Nathan. I'm not hiding. I'm simply done enabling bad behavior. Nathan closed the door and watched through the security monitor as they argued beside their car. Isabella gestured wildly while Tony appeared to be trying to calm her down. Finally, they got back in the Mercedes and drove away. He poured himself a drink and sat on the deck overlooking the lake. Stars reflected on the water's surface, undisturbed by city lights or noise. The next morning, Nathan woke to silence. No traffic, no construction, no Isabella's morning routine of loud phone calls and reality TV. He made coffee and sat on the deck, watching mist rise from the lake. Lena called around 9 a.m. Final day updates. Isabella spent the night at the Ritz downtown, charged to a credit card that was declined around midnight. Hotel security had to escort her out. She's apparently staying with her sister now. What else? TMZ published photos of your penthouse being cleared out. Isabella hired movers yesterday, but they could only take items she could prove were hers personally. Most of the expensive furniture and art stayed. Nathan had specifically purchased everything for the penthouse in his name only. Isabella's personal belongings amounted to clothes, jewelry, and cosmetics. The restraining order is active? Yes. She violates it again, she'll be arrested. And the business transition? Complete. Meridian officially owns Drake Luxury Travel as of this morning. Your final paycheck and equity payment are being transferred to your personal accounts. Nathan spent the day at the lake house, reading and enjoying the quiet. Around sunset, he drove back to the city for one final task. The penthouse felt empty, but not lonely. Isabella's presence had filled the space with constant noise and drama. Her absence felt like taking off tight shoes after a long day. He walked through the rooms, collecting a few remaining personal items. In the bedroom, he found a note on the dresser in Isabella's handwriting. Nathan, I know you're angry, but this doesn't have to end our marriage. I made mistakes, but we can work through this. I love you. Please call me. Bella? He crumpled the note and threw it away. His phone rang. David again. How are you holding up? Surprisingly well. Thought I'd feel worse about ending a 6-year marriage. Sometimes the relationship ends long before the paperwork catches up. What's next? Nathan looked around the penthouse one last time. I'm selling this place. Maybe travel for a while. See places that aren't in my own company's brochures. Need company? Sarah's been wanting to visit Europe. Maybe. I'll let you know. After hanging up, Nathan took the elevator to the parking garage. As he reached his car, footsteps echoed behind him. Nathan! He turned to see Jake Steele, his former business partner from their startup days. Jake looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight between feet. Jake, what brings you here? I heard about everything. Look, I know we haven't talked much since I sold my shares, but I wanted to say, Isabella was never right for you. Nathan unlocked his car. Meaning? She hit on me at your wedding reception. When you were giving your speech to the investors, she cornered me by the bar and suggested we get together sometime for drinks. I should have told you then. Why didn't you? Jake shrugged. You seemed happy. I figured maybe I misread the situation. Anyone else? Probably. She wasn't subtle about it. Nathan felt something that might have been relief, more confirmation that his decision was correct. Thanks for telling me. For what it's worth, you handled this whole thing perfectly. Clean, legal, effective. She and Damien got exactly what they deserved. Nathan drove back to the lake house as darkness fell. The property's isolation, which Isabella had always criticized, now felt like a luxury. No neighbors, no traffic, no unwanted visitors. He spent the next week in peaceful routine. Coffee on the deck, reading, walking the property trails, and fielding calls from his lawyer about divorce proceedings. Isabella had hired an aggressive attorney who filed multiple motions challenging the prenuptial agreement, but Patricia Kim was confident they would all be denied. She's claiming emotional distress and seeking temporary spousal support, Patricia explained during one of their calls. Problem is, she can't prove financial needs since she never worked, and the prenup specifically waives spousal support. How long until it's final? 2 months if she stops filing frivolous motions. 6 months if she keeps fighting. Nathan preferred the longer timeline. It meant more time at the lake house, away from the situation. On Friday evening, he was grilling dinner when headlights appeared in his driveway again. This time, a single car, Isabella's sister Monica behind the wheel. Nathan met them at the porch, staying on his side of the property line. "Nathan, please!" Monica called out. "Isabella's a mess. She hasn't eaten in 3 days." "She's talking about doing something stupid." Isabella emerged from the passenger seat looking genuinely awful. She'd lost weight, her hair was unwashed, and her expensive clothes hung loosely. "I'm sorry!" she shouted across the yard. "I'm so sorry. I know I screwed up, but please don't throw away 6 years of marriage." Nathan stayed on his porch. "You threw away the marriage when you decided to publicly humiliate me with my employee. It didn't mean anything. Damien was he made me feel appreciated. I gave you everything you wanted. 6-figure shopping budgets, luxury vacations, complete financial freedom. What more appreciation did you need?" Isabella started crying, loud, dramatic sobs that echoed across the property. Monica put an arm around her shoulders. "Nathan, she made a mistake," Monica said. "Can't you find it in your heart to forgive? Some mistakes are too public and too deliberate to forgive." "So that's it? You destroy her whole life over one affair?" Nathan stepped to the edge of his porch. "One affair? Let's talk about the specifics. The hotel receipts going back 18 months. The jewelry Damien bought her with stolen corporate funds. The Instagram posts about girls' trips that were actually romantic getaways." "Should I continue?" Isabella's crying intensified. "I never meant for it to go this far." "You meant for it to stay hidden. That's different." Monica helped Isabella back to the car, shooting Nathan a look of pure hatred. "You're heartless." "She loved you. She loved what I could provide. There's a difference." They drove away, leaving Nathan alone with his dinner and the evening quiet. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Lena's car appeared in the driveway around 10 a.m. She emerged with coffee cups and a manila folder. "Thought you might want an update," she said, climbing the porch steps. "How did you find me here?" "You gave me this address 6 years ago for emergency contacts. I've never used it before." They sat on the deck with coffee while Lena opened her folder. Damien was sentenced yesterday. 18 months federal prison, 3 years probation, full restitution to Drake Luxury Travel. The judge called it a clear case of breach of fiduciary duty and theft. "And Isabella? Her Instagram account is down to 30,000 followers. All brand partnerships terminated. Her sister's husband is apparently furious about her staying with them. She's running up their credit cards and drinking heavily." Nathan sipped his coffee, watching a hawk circle over the lake. "Anything else?" "The penthouse sold. Full asking price. Cash buyer. Meridian Holdings is thriving under new management. And there's this." Lena handed him a newspaper clipping from the business section. The headline read, "From betrayal to buyout, how one CEO turned personal disaster into financial success." The article, accompanied by a professional photo of Nathan from the company website, detailed his calculated and legal response to personal betrayal and praised his clean extraction from a compromised business relationship. "They're calling you a model for how executives should handle personal and professional boundary violations," Lena said. Nathan read through the article. The reporter had interviewed business ethics professors and divorce attorneys, all praising his approach as textbook perfect for protecting assets and maintaining professional reputation during personal crisis. Any negative coverage? A few social media posts calling you cold and heartless, but mostly from Isabella's friends. The general public seems to think you handled it exactly right. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the lake. Finally, Lena asked, "What's next for you?" "I'm thinking about that consulting offer from Meridian, maybe part-time project-based work. I'd like to help other entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes I made." "What mistakes?" "You built a successful company and executed a perfect exit strategy." Nathan smiled. "I trusted the wrong person with too much access to my life. That won't happen again." Lena finished her coffee and prepared to leave. "If you need anything, references, background checks on future business partners, anything, call me." After she drove away, Nathan spent the afternoon on the deck with his laptop, researching consulting opportunities and travel destinations. For the first time in years, his future felt completely open. Around sunset, his phone rang. Patricia Kim. "Good news. Isabella's attorney withdrew all contested motions. She's agreed to the original prenup terms. We can finalize the divorce next week if you're available Tuesday." "What changed her mind?" Reality, I think. Her new legal team explained that fighting a solid prenup with documented adultery was expensive and pointless. She'll get what the agreement specifies. Nothing. Tuesday morning, Nathan met Patricia at the courthouse downtown. The hearing took 15 minutes. Isabella attended with her lawyer but didn't speak except to answer the judge's required questions. When asked if she understood the terms of the divorce decree, Isabella nodded and whispered, "Yes, Your Honor." The judge signed the papers, making Nathan officially single for the first time in 6 years. In the courthouse lobby, Isabella's lawyer approached Patricia. "Mrs. Drake would like to speak with your client privately." Patricia looked to Nathan, who shook his head. "No private conversations. Anything she wants to say can be said with lawyers present." Isabella stepped forward anyway. "Nathan, I just want you to know, I really did love you. In my own way." Nathan studied her face for a moment. She looked older somehow, worn down by months of stress and consequences. "I believe you think that's true," he said finally. "But love doesn't include public humiliation and financial fraud. So there's no chance we could ever—" "None." Isabella nodded, tears starting again. She turned and walked away with her lawyer, her heels clicking against marble floors. Nathan drove back to the lake house, feeling lighter with every mile. The divorce was final. The business transition was complete. All loose ends were tied up. That evening, he called David in Seattle. "How does it feel to be a free man?" Nathan looked out over the lake, where evening mist was starting to form. "Expensive, but worth it. What's the damage? Legal fees, business restructuring costs, property settlements, maybe $2 million total. But I walked away with $157 million and my reputation intact. Isabella got exactly what she contributed. Nothing. And Damien? Federal prison and a felony record. His career in corporate management is finished. Think you'll ever see Isabella again?" Nathan considered the question. "Maybe at mutual friends events, but we don't have many of those anymore. Most people picked sides, and most picked mine. Smart people." After hanging up, Nathan opened a bottle of wine and sat on the deck until stars appeared. Tomorrow, he would start making plans, travel destinations, consulting projects, maybe a new house somewhere warmer. But tonight, he was content to sit in the quiet and appreciate the sound of nothing happening. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I heard about the divorce. Are you okay? Sarah." He didn't recognize the name or number. Probably someone from his old social circle fishing for gossip. He deleted the message without responding. Another text arrived immediately. "This is Sarah from Meridian Holdings. We met at the acquisition lunch." Nathan smiled and typed back, "I'm very well, thanks. Enjoying the peace and quiet. If you're ever ready to get back into the business world, we have some interesting projects brewing. No pressure, just throwing it out there. I might be interested. Let's talk next week." "Looking forward to it." Nathan finished his wine and went inside to bed, already thinking about new possibilities. The future, for the first time in years, felt entirely his own. 6 months later, Nathan stood in the lobby of a luxury resort in Costa Rica, reviewing architectural plans with Sarah Chen and her development team. His consulting work with Meridian Holdings had evolved into a full partnership in their hospitality division. "The sustainable design elements will set us apart from competitors," Sarah explained, pointing to solar installations and water recycling systems on the blueprints. Nathan nodded, making notes on his tablet. The work felt meaningful in a way his previous company never had. Building luxury experiences while minimizing environmental impact appealed to his sense of purpose. "Timeline for Phase 1 completion? 18 months if permitting goes smoothly," replied the lead architect. Nathan's phone buzzed with a news alert. He glanced at the screen and saw a familiar name in the headline. "Former marketing executive released from federal prison, seeks fresh start." The article included a photo of Damien leaving a correctional facility, looking thin and older. According to the story, he planned to rebuild his life and make amends for past mistakes. Sarah noticed Nathan's expression. "Everything okay?" "Just ghosts from the past." "Nothing important." Nathan deleted the alert and focused on the resort plans. His former life felt increasingly distant, like something that had happened to someone else. That evening, he ate dinner alone at a beachside restaurant, watching surfers catch waves in the fading light. His phone remained silent, a luxury he'd learned to appreciate. The waiter brought his check along with a business card. "The lady at table 6 asked me to give you this." Nathan looked across the restaurant and saw an attractive brunette in her 30s raising a wine glass in his direction. The business card read, "Maria Santos, architecture consultant, San Jose." He walked over to her table. "Thank you for the card. I'm Nathan." "Maria, I couldn't help but notice the resort plans you were reviewing." "Are you working on the Meridian project?" "I am. You know about it?" "I consult on sustainable tourism development throughout Central America. The Meridian project is generating a lot of positive buzz." They talked for an hour about architecture, environmental design, and travel. Maria was intelligent, accomplished, and refreshingly direct. When she mentioned being recently divorced, Nathan felt a moment of connection. "Would you like to have dinner tomorrow night?" he asked as they prepared to leave. "I'd enjoy that." Walking back to his hotel, Nathan realized he hadn't thought about Isabella or Damien in weeks. The past was truly past. The next morning, he received an unexpected email from his divorce attorney. "Nathan, thought you should know Isabella Drake was arrested last night for DUI and possession of cocaine. She's being held on $50,000 bail. Her sister contacted my office asking if you might consider helping with legal expenses. I told her to contact your representatives directly, but wanted to give you a heads up. Patricia." Nathan read the email twice, then deleted it. Isabella's choices and consequences were no longer his concern. He spent the morning reviewing financial projections with the Meridian team, then drove along the coast to scout potential locations for future projects. The work energized him in ways he hadn't experienced in years. That evening, he met Maria for dinner at a restaurant overlooking Manuel Antonio Beach. She wore a simple dress that complemented her dark hair and bright smile. "How long have you been working in sustainable development?" he asked over appetizers. 6 years. I started after my ex-husband's construction company went bankrupt from cutting environmental corners. Watching him prioritize short-term profits over long-term responsibility taught me what not to do." Nathan appreciated her honesty about past relationships. "What's your next project?" "A eco-lodge in the cloud forest. Small scale, minimal impact, maximum integration with the natural environment." They talked until the restaurant closed, discovering shared values about business ethics and environmental responsibility. When Maria mentioned she was flying back to San Jose in the morning, Nathan felt genuinely disappointed. "I'll be back in Costa Rica next month for the groundbreaking ceremony," he said as they walked to their cars. "I'd like to see you then. I'll call you." Driving back to his hotel, Nathan reflected on how different this felt from his relationship with Isabella. Maria was accomplished, self-sufficient, and intellectually engaging. She didn't need him to provide lifestyle or status. She had her own. The next morning, Nathan flew back to his lake house with a renewed sense of purpose. The Costa Rica project represented everything he wanted his future to be: meaningful work, environmental responsibility, and personal growth. Lena called that afternoon with updates on various business matters. At the end of the call, she mentioned running into mutual friends from his married days. "The Hendersons asked about you at a charity event last weekend. They seemed surprised you weren't there with Isabella. I assume you told them we're divorced." "I mentioned you were focusing on new business ventures and traveling more." "I didn't think they needed details about the divorce." Nathan appreciated Lena's discretion. His private life would remain private. That evening, he sat on his deck with a glass of wine, watching sunset colors reflect on the lake. His phone showed missed calls from unknown numbers, probably reporters or people seeking gossip about Isabella's arrest. But he ignored them all. The peace he'd found at the lake house had become precious to him. No drama, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells around someone else's emotions and demands. His laptop chimed with an email from Maria. "Thank you for a wonderful evening. I'm looking forward to your next visit." Attached are some photos from the Cloud Forest project. Thought you might find them interesting. The photos showed a stunning landscape of trees and mist, with small structures that seemed to grow from the forest itself. Her work was impressive and inspiring. Nathan typed back, "Beautiful project. I'd love to see it in person next month. Would you be available for a tour?" Her response came quickly. "Absolutely. I'll clear my schedule." Over the following weeks, Nathan divided his time between consulting work and planning his return to Costa Rica. The Meridian partnership was expanding beyond the initial resort project to include sustainable tourism initiatives throughout Central America. One morning, he received a call from Patricia Kim. "Isabella's legal troubles are escalating. The DUI is her third offense, which makes it a felony. She's also facing drug possession charges and tax evasion issues related to unreported income from her influencer days. Why are you telling me this? Her sister called again, asking if you'd provide character testimony for sentencing. I told her no, but wanted to confirm that's still your position. It is. Isabella made her choices. I'm not responsible for the consequences. Understood. Also, there's something else. Damian Cole tried to contact you through my office. He wants to apologize and make amends. Nathan looked out over the lake, feeling nothing about the news. Did you respond? I told him you're not interested in contact of any kind. He's legally prohibited from approaching you directly under the restraining order anyway. Good. Anything else? That's everything. Enjoy your travels. Nathan spent the afternoon hiking the trails around his property, thinking about how completely his life had changed. A year ago, he'd been trapped in a marriage built on lies, enabling someone else's destructive behavior. Now he was free to pursue work that mattered with people he respected. The transformation felt profound and permanent. 2 weeks later, Nathan returned to Costa Rica for the resort groundbreaking ceremony. Maria met him at the airport, looking professional in khakis and a work shirt, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Ready to see the cloud forest? She asked as they drove into the mountains. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. The drive took them through winding mountain roads, past coffee plantations and small villages. Maria pointed out sustainable farming practices and explained local environmental challenges with the passion of someone who truly cared about her work. At the cloud forest site, Nathan understood why she was so excited. Mist drifted between ancient trees while exotic birds called from the canopy. The eco-lodge structures seemed to float among the branches, connected by suspended walkways that minimized ground impact. This is incredible, Nathan said, following Maria across a bridge between tree platforms. It took 3 years to get permits that allowed us to build without cutting a single mature tree. Every structure is designed to work with the forest, not against it. They spent the day touring the facility, discussing sustainable tourism models and environmental impact mitigation. Nathan found himself energized by Maria's expertise and passion for conservation. That evening, they had dinner at a small restaurant in the mountain town below. Over local fish and wine, their conversation shifted from professional to personal. What made you decide to leave your previous company? Maria asked. Nathan considered how much to reveal. My business partner was stealing, and my wife was having an affair with him. I decided a clean break was better than trying to repair something fundamentally broken. That must have been devastating. At the time, yes. In retrospect, it forced me to examine what I really wanted from life. I was enabling behavior I didn't respect because it was easier than confronting the truth. Maria nodded thoughtfully. My ex-husband's company failed because he prioritized shortcuts over sustainability. I kept warning him about environmental violations, but he wouldn't listen. Sometimes people have to learn consequences the hard way. Did you try to save the marriage? For 2 years. But you can't build a partnership with someone who doesn't share your fundamental values. Nathan felt a deep connection to her perspective. They understood each other's experiences without judgment or dramatic explanations. After dinner, they walked through the quiet mountain town, past small shops and local bars, where residents gathered to play music and socialize. This feels real, Nathan said, gesturing to the authentic community around them. It is real. No pretense, no performance. People here work hard, care for their families, and find joy in simple things. Very different from my former life. What was that like? Nathan described the constant social performances, expensive restaurants where people went to be seen rather than to enjoy food, and Isabella's obsession with social media validation. Everything had been curated for appearance rather than substance. Sounds exhausting, Maria said. It was. I just didn't realize it until it stopped. They walked back to their hotels as the mountain air grew cool. At Maria's hotel entrance, she turned to face him. I have a confession, she said. I knew who you were when I approached you at the restaurant last month. Nathan raised an eyebrow. How? The business news coverage of your company sale. Your story about handling personal and professional betrayal ethically impressed me. I wanted to meet someone who could walk away from a corrupt situation with their integrity intact. And now that you've met me? Maria smiled. Even more impressed. She kissed him softly, then disappeared into her hotel. Nathan walked back to his own hotel, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years, the excitement of connecting with someone who challenged and inspired him. The next morning, Nathan attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the Meridian Resort. Local officials, environmental groups, and community leaders gathered to celebrate the project's commitment to sustainable tourism. Nathan gave a brief speech about responsible development and long-term environmental stewardship. The applause was genuine, from people who understood the importance of protecting their natural resources while creating economic opportunities. After the ceremony, Sarah Chen pulled Nathan aside. "The board is impressed with your work here. We want to offer you a permanent position as Director of Sustainable Development for all Meridian projects worldwide." Nathan felt a surge of excitement. What would that involve? Leading our environmental initiatives, consulting on site selection, and developing partnerships with conservation groups, based wherever you want, with travel as needed. I'm very interested. Think about it. We'll draft a formal offer when you're ready. That afternoon, Nathan and Maria hiked to a waterfall hidden in the cloud forest. The trail was challenging, requiring careful navigation through mist-covered rocks and dense vegetation. At the waterfall, they sat on moss-covered stones, surrounded by the sound of rushing water and bird calls. "I got a job offer today," Nathan said, Director of Sustainable Development for Meridian Holdings. International travel, environmental focus, meaningful work. "That's wonderful. Will you take it?" "I think so. It feels like the right next step." Maria was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Where would you be based?" "Anywhere I want. I'm thinking about selling the lake house and finding somewhere with better weather and more interesting projects." "Costa Rica has excellent weather and fascinating projects," Nathan smiled. "It does. And interesting people." They kissed again, longer this time, with the waterfall providing a soundtrack of natural music. Nathan felt a sense of rightness he'd never experienced with Isabella. No drama, no manipulation, just genuine connection with someone who shared his values. That evening, they had dinner at Maria's hotel restaurant, planning potential collaboration between her conservation work and Meridian's development projects. "We could create a model for sustainable tourism that other companies could follow," Maria said, sketching ideas on napkins. "Educational components, local employment priorities, environmental monitoring, it could revolutionize the industry." Nathan was struck by how naturally they worked together, building on each other's ideas without competition or ego conflicts. "Would you be interested in consulting for Meridian?" he asked. "Very interested, especially if it means working with you." They spent the rest of the evening planning a future that combined their professional expertise with their growing personal connection. The next morning, Nathan flew back to the United States with a signed contract from Meridian Holdings and Maria's promise to visit him in 2 weeks. At the lake house, Nathan called a realtor to discuss selling the property. The house had served its purpose as a retreat and healing space, but he was ready for a new chapter. Lena called that afternoon with various business updates, including news about his former life. Isabella was sentenced yesterday. 18 months in minimum security prison, 3 years probation, and substantial fines. Her sister posted something on social media about cruel justice systems that got a lot of negative responses. Anyone defending her? Not really. Most comments were variations of actions have consequences. Her former influencer friends seemed to have moved on to other drama. Nathan felt nothing about the news. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just indifference. Isabella had become irrelevant to his life. What about the penthouse sale proceeds? Deposited to your account yesterday. With the business sale and property sales, your liquid assets are approaching $200 million. Nathan had more money than he could spend in several lifetimes, but that wasn't what excited him. The financial security meant freedom to pursue meaningful work without concern for profit maximization. "One more thing," Lena added. "Jake Steele called asking if you'd be interested in investing in his new startup. Something about sustainable packaging solutions. Set up a meeting when I'm back from Costa Rica next month. But only if his environmental claims can be verified independently. I'll arrange due diligence." That evening, Nathan sat on his deck for what might be the last time, watching sunset colors paint the lake in shades of gold and pink. The house had been a sanctuary during his transition from his old life, but he was ready to move forward. His phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "Missing the cloud forest already. Can't wait to see you in 2 weeks. Nathan typed back, already planning our next adventure. 2 weeks later, Maria arrived at the lake house with a suitcase and a laptop bag. Nathan met her at the airport, feeling like a teenager picking up his first serious girlfriend. "This is beautiful," she said as they drove up to the house. "I can see why you came here to think. It served its purpose. But I'm ready for something new." They spent 3 days hiking, cooking together, and planning their future collaboration on sustainable tourism projects. Maria brought fresh perspective to everything Nathan had been considering. The lake house could become a retreat center for environmental education, she suggested over coffee on the deck. Corporate groups learning sustainable business practices, students studying conservation. It has perfect facilities and location. Nathan loved the idea. Rather than just selling the property, he could donate it to an environmental nonprofit and create ongoing value. "Let's research organizations that might be interested," he said. They spent the afternoon contacting conservation groups and educational institutions. By evening, they had 3 organizations eager to discuss the possibility of establishing a retreat center at the lake house. "You're brilliant," Nathan told Maria as they prepared dinner together. "We're brilliant together," she corrected. "I never would have thought of this without your business experience." That night, they made love for the first time. It was nothing like Nathan's relationship with Isabella. No performance, no drama, just genuine intimacy between equals. Afterward, they lay talking about their dreams and goals until dawn. The next morning, Maria asked, "What happened to your ex-wife's lover? Damien? Federal prison for 18 months. Released recently, trying to rebuild his career? Do you think about revenge? Satisfaction that they got what they deserved?" Nathan considered the question carefully. "At first, yes, but now I feel nothing about either of them. They're not part of my future." "That's healthy. Carrying anger poisons your own happiness." "What about your ex-husband?" "He moved to Mexico after the bankruptcy. I heard he's working construction now. I hope he's learned to value honest work." Neither felt the need to dwell on past relationships. They were both focused on building something new together. On Maria's last day at the lake house, they finalized plans for Nathan's relocation to Costa Rica. He would keep a small apartment in the United States for business travel, but establish his primary residence near Maria's cloud forest project. "Are you sure about this?" Maria asked as they loaded her luggage. "It's a big change. The biggest decisions often feel the most obvious when they're right," Nathan replied. 6 months later, Nathan stood on the deck of his new house in the Costa Rican mountains, watching the sun rise over the cloud forest. The house was smaller than the lake property, but perfectly designed for the climate and landscape. Maria emerged from the kitchen with coffee, wearing hiking clothes and a backpack. "Ready for the morning survey?" she asked. They were documenting wildlife populations as part of an ongoing conservation study. Nathan had discovered a passion for environmental research that surprised him with its depth and satisfaction. "Lead the way, Dr. Santos," he said, using her academic title playfully. They hiked into the forest, noting bird species and collecting water samples from streams. The work was methodical and peaceful, nothing like the corporate drama of Nathan's previous life. Around noon, they stopped at a clearing with views across the valley. Nathan's phone showed several missed calls from Lena, which was unusual. She knew not to interrupt him during field research unless it was urgent. "I should check these messages," he told Maria. Lena's voicemail was brief. "Nathan, there's a situation developing. Damien Cole is giving interviews claiming you framed him for the fraud charges. He's alleging corporate conspiracy and trying to get media attention for an appeal. Call me when you can." Nathan played the message for Maria, who frowned thoughtfully. "Is there any truth to his claims?" "None. The fraud was documented with his own expense reports and credit card statements, but desperate people sometimes try desperate tactics." Nathan called Lena back immediately. "What exactly is Damien claiming?" "That you planted evidence and bribed witnesses to frame him because of the affair with Isabella. He's scheduled to appear on a business news show tomorrow morning." "Do we need to respond?" "Patricia Kim thinks we should issue a brief statement with facts only. No emotional responses. The evidence against him was overwhelming and his claims are easily disproven. Draft something and send it to me for approval. What about Isabella?" No comment from her or her representatives. "She's apparently focused on her own legal problems." Nathan hung up and explained the situation to Maria. "How do you feel about this?" she asked, annoyed that I have to deal with it but not worried. Truth has a way of prevailing over desperation. They finished their research hike and returned home, where Nathan spent an hour on conference calls with his legal team. Patricia Kim was confident that Damien's claims would collapse under scrutiny. "He's grasping at straws," she explained. "Ex-convicts making unsubstantiated claims against successful businessmen rarely get traction in the media." That evening, Nathan and Maria had dinner at a local restaurant in the mountain town. Other diners included environmental researchers, local business owners, and families enjoying simple meals together. "This feels like the real world," Nathan observed, watching children play while their parents talked quietly. "It is the real world. Everything else is just noise." Nathan's phone buzzed with news alerts about Damien's upcoming television appearance, but he ignored them all. The controversy belonged to his past life. The next morning, Maria left early for a research expedition in a remote section of the cloud forest. Nathan worked from home, reviewing proposals for new Meridian projects and preparing for a video conference with environmental consultants in Brazil. Around 10 a.m., Lena called with an update. Damien's television appearance was a disaster. The host had all the court documents and asked him to explain specific evidence of his fraud. He couldn't answer coherently and ended up looking desperate and dishonest. "Any media follow-up?" "Business reporters are calling it a sad attempt to rewrite history and the final chapter of a corruption scandal. Your statement was picked up by several outlets and presented as calm, factual response to wild accusations." "Good. Anything else?" "Meridian Holdings issued a statement supporting you as a leader of unquestionable integrity. Sarah Chen wants to discuss accelerating your next project." Nathan felt satisfied that the situation had resolved quickly and decisively. Truth really did prevail over desperation. That afternoon, he worked on sustainability reports while waiting for Maria to return from her expedition. The cloud forest research was yielding fascinating data about ecosystem interdependence and climate adaptation. Around sunset, Maria hiked up the trail to their house, muddy but excited. "We found a new species of tree frog," she announced, showing him photos on her camera, "completely undocumented. The discovery will help strengthen protection arguments for the entire watershed." They celebrated with wine on their deck, watching mist rise from the forest as darkness fell. Nathan's phone remained silent. No corporate crises, no personal drama, no unwanted intrusions. "Any regrets about leaving your old life?" Maria asked. Nathan considered the question seriously. "Only that I waited so long to do it." "What would you tell someone in a similar situation?" "That loyalty to people who don't deserve it is just another form of self-destruction. Cut your losses cleanly and move toward what you actually want." "And what do you want now?" Nathan looked across the valley at lights twinkling in the small town below, then at Maria's face in the candlelight. "This. Meaningful work, authentic relationships, peace. Everything I have right now." The next morning brought news that Damien's appeal had been rejected by federal courts. His fraud conviction was final, and his attempts to blame Nathan had generated no legal or media support. "Justice served," Lena summarized during their weekly check-in call. "Justice was served 18 months ago when he was convicted," Nathan corrected. "This was just noise." With all legal matters finally concluded, Nathan felt completely free from his past. Isabella and Damien had no remaining claims on his attention or energy. That afternoon, he and Maria hiked to their favorite waterfall, where they'd first discussed working together. The trail was familiar now, a weekly ritual that marked the rhythm of their life together. At the waterfall, they sat on their usual rocks and shared lunch, while small parrots flew overhead. "I have news," Maria said, pulling an official-looking letter from her backpack. "The Conservation Foundation approved our proposal. Full funding for the Watershed Protection Project." Nathan felt a surge of excitement. The project would protect 50,000 acres of cloud forest while creating sustainable employment for local communities. "This is incredible! When do we start?" "Next month." "They want us to present our model at the International Conservation Conference in Switzerland." Nathan pulled Maria close and kissed her, tasting adventure and shared purpose on her lips. "Ready for our next adventure?" she asked. "With you?" "Always." They sat by the waterfall until sunset, planning their presentation and dreaming about the impact their work might have. Nathan felt the deep satisfaction of knowing his life had found its proper direction. Walking back through the cloud forest as darkness fell, he realized he hadn't thought about Isabella or Damien in weeks. They'd become irrelevant to his story, minor characters and a prologue to his real life. At home, they found an email from Sarah Chen with details about Meridian's expansion into African conservation projects. The company wanted Nathan and Maria to lead sustainable tourism development across 3 countries. "Are you interested?" Nathan asked, reading over the proposal. "Very interested, but let's finish the Cloud Forest project first." "Agreed. We do good work together. We do everything well together." That night, they made love with the sounds of the forest around them, birds calling, insects singing, wind moving through trees. Nathan felt completely present in the moment, free from the weight of past mistakes and future worries. Afterward, as Maria slept beside him, Nathan reflected on the journey from his old life to this new one. The transformation had cost him money, time, and temporary social status, but had given him authenticity, purpose, and genuine love. He thought briefly about Isabella, wondering if she had found any peace in prison, any understanding of how her choices had led to her circumstances. He hoped so for her sake, but her journey was no longer his concern. Damien, too, had chosen his path and faced its consequences. Nathan felt no satisfaction in the man's downfall, only relief that the distraction was finally over. The future stretched ahead, full of meaningful work and shared adventures. Nathan fell asleep listening to the forest, completely at peace with his choices. 6 months later, Nathan stood before an audience of international conservationists in Geneva, presenting the Cloud Forest project results. Maria stood beside him, clicking through slides of wildlife data and community impact measurements. Sustainable tourism generated 40% more local employment than traditional development, while maintaining 97% of original biodiversity, Nathan explained to the engaged audience. The presentation received enthusiastic applause and multiple requests for collaboration. Their model was being adopted by conservation groups worldwide. That evening, at the conference reception, Nathan and Maria were approached by delegates from 12 countries seeking advice on similar projects. "This is overwhelming," Maria whispered as they took a break from networking. "Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming?" "Definitely good. We're making a real difference." Later, in their hotel room overlooking Lake Geneva, they video called Nathan's team at Meridian Holdings to discuss expanding their model to new continents. "The board is thrilled with the international response," Sarah Chen reported. "We want to move forward with the African projects immediately." After the call, Nathan and Maria sat on their hotel balcony, watching lights reflect on the lake water. "A year ago, I was trapped in a marriage built on lies," Nathan said. "Now I'm working with the woman I love to protect some of the world's most important ecosystems." "A year ago, I was struggling to fund a single small project," Maria added. "Now we're influencing conservation policy globally. Think we'll look back on this as the beginning of something even bigger? I think we'll look back on this as the moment we realized we could change the world." Nathan's phone buzzed with the news. Alert. He glanced at it briefly, something about celebrity divorces and business scandals, then deleted it without reading. The past was past. The future was theirs to build. They went inside and made love with the windows open, cool mountain air mixing with their breath and heartbeats. Afterward, they planned their next day's presentations and dreamed about protecting forests they'd never seen. Nathan fell asleep completely happy, surrounded by the smell of Maria's hair and the distant sound of Swiss church bells. His last thought before sleep was gratitude for the courage to leave what wasn't working and the wisdom to recognize what was. In the morning, they would continue changing the world, one forest at a time.